I think one of the things that you've talked about a lot, and I think is reflected in what you just said in terms of how you both quickly divided up equity amongst yourselves, how you thought about compensating early employees, how you thought about culture, is you've always had a really keen eye and focus on talent. And there's almost two types of talent in your business. I'm extrapolating, one is the management that you'll help bring on board or hire or get to reinvest in a company. The other is talent for KKR itself. How do you think about the key attributes of what you look for in employees for KKR? And how has that changed over time? Or what is a new thing that got added or something that got dropped?
Well, first of all, I'm going to start with the premise, and I don't know whether you all would agree with it or not, but I really believe very strongly in this, that I don't think you can be a great investor if you're not curious. And I'm not talking about curious just about your business, but curious about a lot of things. Curious about history, curious about the arts, literature, you name it, whatever it is. And I think that's very important. So what we're looking for are people that have that kind of talent in them, that they really, because we're only as good, we don't have a product. All we have is a lot of ideas and I think investing capability. But if you're not curious, so if I took somebody, any one of you, to the window at my office on the 77th floor at 30 Hudson Yards, and I said to you, what do you see out there? Oh God, it's a trick question. Let's see. Oh yeah, I see the tugboat in the Hudson River. I said, you failed. I want you to be able to see everything. You have to see the entire landscape because you got to connect the dots. You got to see possibility. There's a vacant lot over here. I can go build a building, whatever it is. And so what we're looking for are people that are willing to take risk. And I think that's one of the hardest things for young people that are investing today to do. We get all the best and the brightest from different schools, and they struggle to pull the trigger. They want, they used to come in with a 50-page memo, and it would tell you how many blue trucks in the business and so forth. It didn't matter a damn thing about the blue trucks. What we want to do is, how are you going to make this company better? How do you create value out of the investment we're making? And if you can't do that in sort of 4 or 5 pages, you probably don't understand the business very well. But all I can think about, and maybe I'm wrong about this, and that is that they're taught in school today to be able to answer every question. So when they come out, when they come into the investment committee, they want to make sure that they can answer every question. I'm waiting for the day for somebody to say, look, I don't know the answer to that, and quite frankly, I don't think it's that important. That to me would be great. But I want to tell you what I can do with the business once you buy it. I say, think about this. You run a model, you're running these models. So I'll say to him, how much money you have? And say, well, what do you mean? And I said, well, I want to bet you every penny of your net worth that your model's wrong. I'm sure they're thinking it can't be. I went to Stanford, it can't be. How could that be wrong? So I said, I'll tell you why it's going to be wrong. We're either going to be higher than what you say the returns are going to be, or it's going to be lower. There's so many things we do. We're not just buying a stock, we're buying a company. So once you get control of a company, just think about all the things you can do. We can develop new products. We can go into new markets. We can sell a non-core subsidiary that's not doing return capital back to, we can refinance the company and there's lots of ways to get returns. And models that are run in the private equity world are static models. You go from point A to point B. I've never seen a model which had a downturn. Everything just goes straight up. That's not life, But that's how the model works. So you run a static model, and I wish that, that you think more like you're the conductor. You're the conductor of, or director of a movie. What do you want the movie to be? Where do you want it to go? How do you want this company to be? You're in charge now. You can do whatever you want with it. We didn't just buy stock. You now control the company. You control the board. You make the decisions. How do you want the company to go in which direction? That, to me, is how we think at KKR, and we act and think like industrialists, and I'm using industrialists in a broad sense. Today, Eli, it takes so much more to be successful in investing in a company. It used to be very simple. Companies were so poorly run. Today, they're much more efficient, much more capital efficient, et cetera, and better run than they were. So today, we have over a 100-person operating group within KKR that are part of KKR. We have a 43-person macro and asset allocation group. We've got something called the KKR Global Institute, headed by General David Petraeus, to focus on regulation, to focus on geopolitical issues as we invest all over the world. We've got a very large ESG team that focuses on, because regulations, environment, government situations all play an impact today on investing if you're going to buy a company. We've got a capital markets team today, which we never had before, because we do the financing ourselves. So the question is, how do you refinance a business once you have it? What's the right capital structure for it? And it used to be that our teams worked on the deal, they would do the financing too. That's a waste of time. So we have a capital markets team that do the debt and the equity placement, and we go from there. So the world has changed as far as investing. So what we're looking for are people willing to take risk, people who are innovative, people who are curious, and I want people to tell me the mistakes they've made. If you ask me, what are the mistakes you made, we'd be here all night, because I can tell you every mistake that we have made, and most of them were just stupid mistakes on our part. We went into industries we shouldn't have. We're going in the auto parts business in Japan and bought Fiat's auto parts business, and then doubled down buying Nissan's business. And so, that was a mistake. Bought Toys R Us. Didn't change the management fast enough. What am I looking for also? I'm looking for people that aren't afraid to make management changes. One of the things I can almost assure you is that what you see in an executive is what you're going to get. I'll repeat that because it's really important. People don't change. You can fix them around the edges, particularly if it's a CEO of a company. And I'll tell you a quick story. In 1978, we bought a company called Lily Tulip, and they made paper plates and cups. McDonald's was the largest customer. And we bought that company, and in the first year, the management didn't even come close, that we inherited with the company, didn't come close to meeting the budget. Okay, I said, you got to do better. Second, went through 2 more quarters, not much better, and I said, I'm going to have to let you go. And he said, you can't let me go. And I said, why is that? He said, because you're going to lose the McDonald's account. So I was young, and I thought, well, geez, maybe he's right. So I let him go 1 more quarter. I said, I've had enough. I'm going to bite the bullet. I let him go. I called the head of purchasing at McDonald's. And I said, we've just let this guy go, and I hope you'll still do business with us. And he laughed. He said, first of all, we do business with the company, not with any one person. And by the way, the only thing I liked about that guy was that he used to take me hunting every year. And that was a lesson for me, because now, I promise you, what you see is what you get. And if you look back, if I look back and say mistakes I made, I didn't move fast enough. And I ask that question oftentimes to CEOs of major companies. And I said, do you agree with me? And I've never found a CEO yet that has disagreed with that statement. He said, most of them will tell me, I'm sorry I didn't do it faster with people I had in my company that I should have moved out.
One of the best anecdotes I've had recently where I was talking to a founder about people not changing was we were talking about employee happiness and how do you cause it and all these things. And he said, well, the #1 way to have happy employees? And I said, what? And he said, hire happy people. And I thought that was actually a real good insight, because if you think about it in other aspects of life, who your partner is, dating, whatever, you're like, oh yeah, I'm not going to try and change somebody into a happy person. So why would you do that in the context of an employee? And to your point, I think there's a lot of other traits like that that are things that people are at the job with, and they either build on those and get better, or they're not going to change. And so I think that's a really great insight.
So just to continue on with what we're looking for, we go through an interview process, and we're probably, for hiring people at KKR, because we have this culture of inclusion where everybody participates in everything we do, and even today, it's exactly the same culture we started 49 plus years ago. And so when we're hiring senior people, we want to take them out for dinner. Because it's funny, if you get people away from just across a conference table, and after they've had a glass or two of wine and they relax, watch them. What do they say? How do they treat the waiter or waitress? How do they treat their partner they're with, et cetera? These are things we're looking for. Do they talk about themselves all the time? If I'm interviewing for a CEO for one of our companies, and they come in, and all I hear for an hour is I did this, I did that. Whoa, stop. Did you have a team? Nobody, I don't care who you are, can do it by yourself, and you all know that. But I can't tell you how many times people come in and they were trying to impress you, and they only talk about themselves. And that's a big mistake.